Aloha guys, it is Wednesday, it is paintball question time. Why don't Dye make a pop valve gun? My thoughts on what Dye are gonna change on their new paintball gun, and typical penalties at a typical paintball tournament. Ben Sroka asks, why doesn't Dye make a Poppet valve gun? Mainly because it never really has fit their angle of attack. Let's explain. So most of this answer is coming from a discussion that I've had with Billy Wing that's taken place over the last few days. So it's insider information, not just my hypothesis or theory about why Dye doesn't have a pop valve gun. Dye's first entrance into the marker market was with the DM3 or Dye Matrix. The Matrix wasn't a gun that Dye actually made. They actually bought the design and like all the IP stuff from a company called Airtech, now defunct. They're kind of gone away. They were kind of part of ProCaps, Diablo. It got really confusing there for a while, but Airtech's totally gone. I think that was 2003, if my memory serves me correct. Most of the time it doesn't though, so I could be wrong, but it's definitely in that 2002, 2003 timeframe. And at that time, that 2002, 2003 time, Dye was blowing up, right? They had super popular pads and pants and masks and jerseys. They had all kinds of popular like paintball accessory things, but they didn't have a gun. So it was just much easier and much quicker for them to just buy a pre-made kind of completed product rather than like engineering and coming up with something brand new. It had just taken too long, like 2-3 years to make these guns from scratch, something like that. And by that time, it'd be like 2006, 2007, they'd have fallen far behind in that marker game. So it just made sense to kind of like buy something that was completed. Dye was making that DM3 Matrix for less than a year. And then in 2004, they came out with the DM4. The DM4 is like the gun that like started this whole DM series. It was the first gun that was like milled fancy and like looked cool. So the DM4 is kind of like the birthplace of the modern Matrix. And during that time, that like early to mid 2000s, there weren't a lot of spool valve guns. Really, it was just the DMs and shockers. Yes, there were other spool valve guns, but the DMs and shockers were like easily the most popular spools out there. The pop valve guns were just far, far more popular. Intimidators were like at the top of that heap, like everyone owned Intimidators. Like I'd be willing to wager that from like 2002 to 2006, like 80 to 85% of people playing tournament paintball, or guys at least that had high-end paintball guns, all had Intimidators. It was crazy, everyone had Intimidators. So Dye, instead of following everyone else and making a pop valve gun and competing directly with Bob Long, a company that dominated the market, tried something unique, stuck with that DM platform, that Matrix spool valve platform, and just wrote it out. And that's worked out for them, right? As we've seen in the last like 4 or 5 years, these pop valve guns kind of just go away, and the DMs kind of remained true and stayed far more popular than the pop valve guns. Let's face it, these pop valve guns are pretty much gone. The LV1, we've kind of seen like this little bit of a resurgence, but sticking with that spool valve gun was a good decision by Dye. So they didn't make that pop valve gun because they wanted to be unique. They wanted to stick with that spool valve design, and then they don't make one now because they're just not popular. At this point, these spool valve guns are super reliable, air efficient, don't kick a lot, they're easy on paint. They're everything you could kind of hope for in a paintball gun. Speaking of Dye, Kyle Monthie asks, what do you think Dye is going to change on their new markers? Kyle brings this question up because Dye just cut the price of their M2, their high-end flagship gun, quite dramatically. You can now get them for $800, $900 when they were $1,500 and $1,600 bucks. So them cutting back that price kind of leads us all to believe that they may be coming out with a new high-end gun pretty soon here. I like the M2. The M2 is the first like Dye gun that I've liked in a very long time, really like 10-ish years. I like the DM9. That was like the first one I liked a lot. So I have no idea what they're actually gonna change, but there are some things I would like to see them change. I hate the freaking software, hate the iPipe, and that on-off lever is a nightmare. I feel like that software is a nightmare hellscape. It's just not intuitive, it's kind of funky, and I dislike the navigation quite a bit. It's not often that I'm changing settings or like adjusting dwell or like firing modes on an M2, but I feel like every time that I do, I have to like break out the manual and like figure out which way to like scroll and like which ways the menu go. It's horrible, I can't stand it. I'm also not a fan of that iPipe. It just breaks all the time. Yes, the new iPipe that's coming on the M2 is 20% thicker, but it still just breaks. It still cracks, it's still made of plastic. I still can't stand it. You just have to baby the thing. And yeah, don't tighten the barrel so much. You can put no ring on the barrel so you don't over tighten the barrel, and don't shoot the gun without a barrel on there. And then your iPipe's gonna last longer. But you can do all of those things. You can like baby it and like not over tighten the barrel and don't shoot the gun without a barrel on it. But the thing still breaks. Over time, just friction and like the bolt just passing over the iPipe just breaks it. I don't know why they're staying with that design. I don't like it. Just get rid of the eye pipe. No one else is using the eye pipe. No one else has any like fancy internal sleeve in their gun. And everyone else's guns work fine. Then there's the on-off, or I guess more accurately, the lever on the on-off. It's just really, really hard to like move the lever action. When the gun's gassed up, ready to go, it's really hard to like push the lever down. I gotta like use a lot of elbow grease to like move the lever down. And then that same problem with putting the lever up. I just gotta like push it really hard. It's just kind of a pain in the ass. I don't like it. I just wish it was much easier. Like the Pops on-off is awesome. That new MacDev on-off is great. There's just a lot of better on-offs out there. Just make it easier to use. So I don't really know what they're gonna do, but I would like them to address those 3 problems. I like the M2. I think it's a good gun. I think it's solid. I think it's reliable and like shoots well and air efficient and all that stuff. So they don't need to change all that much. I'd just like to see a little bit of tweaking to make it a little more easier to use. It's possible this video will be antiquated in less than a week. Maybe they're gonna have a new paintball gun at Paintball Extravaganza coming up in a week's time. SkillsFlo, can you go over the common penalties that happen during a paintball match? I've seen flags thrown during games, but don't necessarily know why. There are a lot of reasons you can't get penalties, but essentially it's just breaking the rules. And we're gonna keep this to the NXL rulebook, mainly because the NXL is the biggest league in the world. Most of the tournament leagues around the world use that NXL rulebook. This is all gonna be NXL rule based. There's really 3 types of penalties you can get. You can get minors, majors, and gross majors. And let's like list those off, right? I'm gonna paraphrase a little bit since I'm not gonna read every single rule exactly from that NXL rulebook. We're just gonna like kind of paraphrase and just sum it up a little bit. So when a minor penalty is assessed, or when you get a minor penalty, they're gonna pull you, the person that committed that penalty, and your closest teammate. So 2 people are walking off the field. The most common penalty is gonna be playing with a hit, whether it's like squaring your chest, in your pack, whatever it is, and you keep playing and you got a hit, that's gonna be a minor penalty. You can also get that minor penalty if you're hit after the point. So say that buzzer ends and you're walking off the field, ref's like, that guy's got a hit in his pack, you're gonna get a minor penalty. You can't talk after you're eliminated, so as soon as you get shot, you have to walk off the field. If you keep jibber jabbering to your teammates, you're gonna get a minor penalty. If you get caught using a gun that has the velocity set at 301 to 314 feet per second, you can get a minor penalty. If you get caught using prohibited equipment, like modified goggles or like a banned color, something like that, you can get a minor. This is one I didn't know about. You can get a penalty for shooting your gun toward the spectator's sideline. I assume they do that just for added safety and maybe to like stop guys from just shooting the net and getting paint all over spectators. If you're just a wild man, like cussing out players and like just being an ass, you can also get a minor. And then there's major penalties. Major penalties are gonna be assessed somewhat similar to minors, except for pulling one of your teammates, they're gonna pull 2. The most common way guys are getting major penalties is playing on and affecting the course of a game. So say you like run in and you bunker a guy, take a step, get shot across the field, take like 15 more steps and shoot another guy, that's definitely gonna be a major penalty because you got shot and then like, went and shot another guy. Major penalty every time. You can get a major penalty for your first offense of having an illegal gun on the field. So say you're shooting like 12 balls a second when the rules say you can shoot 10.5, major penalty. And just like that velocity minor penalty, you're gonna get a major penalty for shooting 315 to 329 feet per second. And then there's gross majors. These are the big ones. These are the ones that like people look down on and you're gonna be a bad person for doing. Gross majors, they're pulling you and 3 teammates. You're gonna get a gross major for wiping. So if you get shot in the chest and you're just like, oh, that didn't happen, gross major if you get caught. You're also gonna get a gross major for discarding equipment to try to get rid of hits. So like say you get hit in the pod and you pull it out and like drop it on the ground and a ref sees that, you're gonna get a gross major because they kind of equate that to the same thing as wiping, really. You're just getting rid of hits. There's also rules for like suspensions. They're pretty rare though, so we're not gonna go over them. Without question, the most common penalty is gonna be that minor penalty. It's gonna be guys playing with hits. I'll bet like 90% of the penalties, at least in the NXL that are given out, are gonna be those minors for guys playing with hits. Whether it's guys getting shot and pretending like they don't know they got shot, or actually just not knowing. And this tournament paint they're using is so brittle that sometimes you can get like shot square in the arm and then not even know it just because the paint's so brittle, you just don't feel it. The second most common penalty is gonna be kind of similar to that first most common one. It's gonna be players that are eliminated after that point's over. So like I said, you're walking off the field, ref notice you're hitting the pack, boom, minor penalty. That's gonna be the second most common one. That's probably like, I don't know, 5-ish% of the time. And then the third most common one is gonna be players talking after they're eliminated. Really, it's not so much guys like talking to their teammates, telling them where opponents are at. It's mainly guys just arguing with the refs all the time, just walking off the field being like, I shot that guy over there. Just being stupid, thinking that they're gonna like manipulate the ref into like calling something. I don't know, maybe they can do it. Definitely not on the divisional fields. The divisional field refs are like, you're stupid. Maybe on the pro fields they can like, I don't know, like manipulate the refs a little bit better because they're paintball famous people. I don't know. But it's definitely gonna be talking after your hit. So those are penalties. Those are all the penalties the NXL have written down, and then the 3 most common penalties we're gonna see at a paintball tournament. Guys, if you want your question featured on Paintball Question Time, leave a comment below or use hashtag PBQT, wherever you'd like. I search for that hashtag before doing these videos, find your questions, and then answer them. Check out more Paintball Question Times right there, or the Paintball Room on Life store in that square box.